We think we know what a beast is. We look at the rulers of our wilderness and we call them monsters. We believe we've seen the peak of power. But millions of years ago, today's giants were nothing more than a footnote. In the presence of true titans, even the earth itself was forced to tremble. This is a scale that defies logic. Yet, the monsters we've built in our minds are nothing like the ones that actually walked. But for a century, we were staring at a lie. Scaly, cold, and ancient. Everything changed in 2026. The giants have been uncovered. Meet the Tyrant King, up close. More than a monster, a masterpiece. Welcome to CurioTales Uncovered. Today, we go beyond the bones, to the truth. We grew up with a monster of scales and dragging tails, a cinematic legend that never actually existed. This is the reality. A bird-like titan, covered in primitive feathers, a hunter that looked more like a nightmare from the sky. These feathers weren't for flight, they were for warmth, allowing this king to thrive in environments we never thought possible. It used its coat to communicate, to warn, and to rule its territory. But if we were this wrong about how the king looked, how much have we misunderstood about the world it ruled? We've spent a century obsessed with one throne, ignoring the other titans that claimed the earth. While the king of the north claimed the forests, another crown was being forged in the heat of a different world. Our journey begins in the river systems of ancient Africa, where a different nightmare reigned. The Spinosaurus, the largest carnivorous dinosaur to ever walk and swim the earth. With a massive sail rising from its back like a warning sign, and a snout designed for the snap kill, it was the master of two worlds. A semi-aquatic gladiator that proved that even the water held no sanctuary from the age of monsters. But as the rivers of Africa belonged to the sailback, the open horizons of the south were being claimed by a different shadow. 7,000 miles away, across the sun-scorched plains of ancient Patagonia, size was a different kind of weapon. The Giganotosaurus, a ghost in these southern plains, a silent stalker that relied on sheer speed and teeth like serrated steak knives to bleed its prey dry. While others were crushers, the Giganotosaurus was a slasher, a precision killer that hunted the largest prey to ever walk the planet. Yet, while the giants of the south relied on brute force and specialized weapons, the king of the north was evolving into something far more dangerous. Deep inside the skull of the T-Rex sat a massive analytical brain. It didn't just hunt, it calculated, it tracked, it strategized. Its snout was packed with sensitive nerve endings, able to feel the slightest vibration in the air before its prey even moved. An Allosaurus used its jaw like a hatchet, but the T-Rex? It was a biological anvil. 6 tons of pressure designed to explode bone and heart alike. It didn't need to roar to terrify. It emitted a low-frequency infrasound, a vibration so deep you felt it in your chest, before the king even stepped into the light. The others were predators, but the T-Rex was the end of the line. While some giants relied on speed or size, others turned their own bodies into impenetrable fortresses. The Ankylosaurus, a biological tank covered in bone-hard plates and spikes that could deflect the deadliest of strikes. But its greatest weapon was hidden at the end of its tail, a massive club of solid bone capable of shattering the legs of any predator brave enough to approach. There was the Triceratops, a creature that didn't just have armor, it had a shield. Its massive bony frill was a wall of defense, protecting its neck from the most powerful bites in history. But the Triceratops was more than just a wall. It was a spear. With 3 massive horns made of solid bone and keratin, it could turn a defensive standoff into a lethal counterattack. Facing a T-Rex wasn't a death sentence for this giant. It was a challenge. A head-on collision between the ultimate bite and the ultimate shield. But the evolution of armor didn't stop at plates. Some fortresses were built with a more aggressive design. The Edmontonia, covered in long, forward-facing spikes meant to impale anything that got too close. Low to the ground and built like a bunker, these creatures were the ultimate deterrent. They turned the act of hunting into a suicide mission for any predator. And no fortress was more iconic than the Stegosaurus, a living wall of bone that turned the Jurassic landscape into a graveyard for anything foolish enough to strike. With a row of massive plates along its spine and a tail armed with 4 lethal spikes, it proved that in the prehistoric world, the best offense was an unbreakable defense. While others fought for survival in the shadows of the forest floor, these giants lived above the world. To look at them was to look at the largest living things to ever walk the earth. Creatures so massive that their footfalls could be felt for miles before they were ever seen. The Brachiosaurus, a biological skyscraper. With a neck that reached heights no predator could touch, it lived in a world of its own. But size wasn't just for reaching the canopy, it was its ultimate defense. When you weigh 45 tons, nothing is brave enough to bite back. But size wasn't the only weapon in this category. Meet the Diplodocus. It didn't have armor, and it didn't have horns. It had a tail. An 80-foot-long whip, capable of breaking the sound barrier with a single flick. A strike so fast, it could stun a predator before they even realized they were being hunted. And then, there was the king of all weight classes, the Argentinosaurus. Stretching over 100 feet long, this wasn't just a dinosaur, it was a moving mountain. To a hunter, attacking this giant wasn't a hunt, it was an earthquake, an unstoppable force of nature that moved the very ground beneath its feet. In the age of giants, size was the law, and these were the rulers of the horizon. The land was only the beginning. Now, we descend into the abyss, where the heartbeat of the earth is drowned out by the snapping jaws of the leviathans. Subscribe for Season 2. Don't be left at the surface.